Hi everybody, and after a long absence, welcome back to Friday Night Spotlight, brought to you by Jones Ford Buick GMC, your hometown dealer for more than 50 years. I am Brian Wright, and I am joined by Maria Vasquez, and we are starting out the high school football season, believe it or not, this Friday. We actually have one Pinal County game. Maricopa is going to start on Thursday. All the other games are going to start on Friday night. And as we normally do, we're going to start by breaking down our game of the week. And this week, that is going to be Florence and Coolidge. That game is going to be played at Coolidge. And of course, this is a long-standing rivalry. These teams really do not like each other, and it's always a good measuring stick game between the two. And Maria, when you look at what these teams did a year ago, I know it's kind of hard for us to project right now. We haven't seen anything from these teams this year, and it's been a kind of a weird off season. But based on what we do know about these teams, what do you see out of this matchup?
So the thing that really sticks out for me is Florence has struggled a bit the past two seasons, but they always managed to get a win against Coolidge, except last year when the Bears finally got that big rivalry win. This year, I'm expecting much of the same. The Bears have a lot of returning players, whereas the Gophers, there's a lot of question marks. They graduated Joshua Magnon, who was pretty much their whole offense, and then on defense, they're going to be without Reagan Terry.
Yeah, and because of those big losses for Florence, there's a little bit of uncertainty there as to what we're going to see. We do know, based on last year, that Coolidge went 8-2. They were number 8 in the 3A power rankings. And Florence, even though they had a disappointing season, just going 4-6, they were just outside the playoff picture, finishing at number 17 in the power points. Coolidge, although Coolidge does return a lot of players, they are without Valentine Rodriguez, who was a very effective quarterback for them and really was kind of the focal point of their offense, even though they do have other talented players. And conversely, one of the key players that Florence does return is the quarterback. You have Christopher Walter, who's entering his senior season. As Maria mentioned, Joshua Magnon was really the focal point last year. It was a very run-heavy offense. I think because of the personnel this year, you're going to see Florence throwing the ball a little bit more, and I would look for Walter to be looking for receivers Isaac Sandoval and Tommy Carberry. And maybe the Gophers are going to have a little bit more of a passing attack this year. Maria, what else do you see out of this matchup?
Well, for the Bears, it's going to be the opposite this year. They're going to rely heavily on their running game with Greg Rodriguez and Comar Jeffries, who combined for over 1,600 yards last year. I'm looking for these two to pretty much carry the Bears' offense this year.
And looking at the other side of the ball for Coolidge, they do have some really outstanding players. Malachi Rodriguez and Angelo Palacios at the linebacker spot, and then you have Augustin Chang, who's just a junior at defensive back, who's definitely an impact player and a bit of a ball hawk for them. So I really expect Coolidge to be good on the defensive side of the ball, in addition to having a pretty explosive run game with Greg Rodriguez, who rushed for nearly 1,000 yards last year. That does it for our breakdown on the game of the week, and enjoy the games on Friday night. Okay, we are now going to move to our picks portion of the program. As we are going to do week by week, we will go through every Pinal County matchup, and we are going to tell you how we think it's going to turn out. And let's start with the one Thursday game we have this week, which is Maricopa hosting Surprise Willow Canyon. And I am going to take Maricopa in this game. Maricopa had a 3-7 record last year, but they played a brutally tough schedule, and they did compete well against that schedule. They weren't too far out of the playoff picture last year, finishing at, I believe it was 21 in the power points. We don't know, at least I don't know, who Maricopa's quarterback is going to be. They do have a really outstanding running back in Mr. Chavis, who should be a big weapon for them this year, and I'm going to take the Rams in this matchup.
I'm also taking Maricopa in this matchup. I think that Tyler Mooney, he's a returning varsity player for the Rams. He did a really great job for them last year on both sides of the ball. He had 53 tackles, 2 interceptions for 95 yards, and then he also had 135 receiving yards.
Okay, and let's move to our game of the week, which is going to be Florence at Coolidge. And this is a tough one for me, but I am going to go with Coolidge. As we mentioned in the first segment, Coolidge did get that win last year, 34-21. I think that Coolidge is probably a better team on the defensive side of the ball, whereas you have players on offense on both sides who can put up some numbers. I really think that the difference here is going to be the Coolidge defense, and I'm going to take the Bears in this matchup.
I'm also taking the Bears. I just have a lot of questions about the Florence offense, and until I see, what they're capable of, I have to go with Coolidge.
All right, next game we have is Casa Grande Union playing on the road at Tucson South Point Catholic, and this is a great Week 1 matchup. Both of these teams, were in the playoffs last year. South Point Catholic actually made the Open Division playoffs, which tells you how good of a program they are. And even though I love CG Union this year, they are a very deep team. They have a great quarterback in Angel Flores, and I think they're going to do a lot of things this year. South Point Catholic, great program, one of the top programs in the state. They are going on the road, and so I am going to go with the Lancers in this opening game for Casa Grande Union.
And I will actually be covering this game, so I do not get a pick.
Okay, moving on, we have Vista Grande playing at home against Phoenix Shadow Mountain. And, Vista Grande was 0-10 last year. Their struggles are well documented. However, they did play in a very, very tough 4A Keno region last year. They are moving to a new region this year, which is significantly less tough. So their schedule is going to be much more forgiving this year. And I think that starting right off the bat against Shadow Mountain, I'm going to take the Spartans in this one. And, they have a very pass-heavy offense. I think Coach Chris Seymour wants to get some more running game going this year. But I think that pass-heavy offense is going to be a little more effective this time around against a softer schedule. And I do see the Spartans being a better team this year. I'm taking Vista Grande.
And I am going to take Shadow Mountain. They have 2 of their top defenders coming back in Isaac Johnson and Nick Tucker. Nick Turner. Turner had 47 tackles and 5 sacks, so I'm taking Shadow Mountain.
Okay, next matchup we have is Poston Butte going on the road to Phoenix Thunderbird. And Poston Butte had a really wild year last year. They were 5-5, had some very close games that went down to the wire on both ends. They barely missed the playoffs, probably by about 1 spot. They do have, of course, a very dynamic running back in Zion Burns, who is verbally committed to the University of Nevada. He's pretty much unstoppable. He's going to be great. Gavin Lloyd, who is the quarterback, really is a very athletic player as well, and adds another dimension to the running game for the Broncos, which is kind of their bread and butter. And I think that Thunderbird is really probably not going to be able to keep up with them in Week 1, so I got Poston Butte in this game.
I'm also taking the Broncos. Like Brian mentioned, Zion Byrne is pretty much in a class of his own. But this year, I think that Gavin Lloyd, this has to be his big year. Second-year starter, and I expect big things from him at the quarterback position.
All right, next we have Santa Cruz Valley taking on Gilbert Santan Charter. And I am actually going to be covering that game. So, Maria, what do you got on that one?
So this year I am super excited about Santa Cruz's line, both offense and defense. Pretty much it's Tanzer Gill, Diego and Juan Castillo. They play both sides of the ball really well. But the guy that sticks out for me overall is Steve Calvin. Towards the end last year, he really found some confidence and made some really big plays for the Dust Devils. So I'm excited to see, what Calvin does for this full season with that newfound confidence.
All right, next matchup we have is Santan Foothills hosting AZ College Prep. And Santan Foothills, they undergo a coaching change. They got a new coach, and they do lose star running back Amari Bailey to graduation. So, they are going to have to lean more on the passing game probably this year and quarterback Brett Lincoln. But there's a lot of question marks there, and AZ College Prep was a top 10 team in 3A last season. So I'm going to take AZ College Prep in this one.
I'm also taking AZ College Prep. Their two playmakers at quarterback Mark Chavez and running back Richard Williams. They had over 1,500 passing and rushing yards each last year. So I think that's going to be kind of a handful for the Sabercats.
Okay, ALA Ironwood going on the road to Winslow. And as we mentioned earlier with Vista Grande going 0-10 last year, same thing for Ironwood. Winless last year. They're just trying to get a win. Very tough opening assignment. First of all, just the road trip is a long road trip to Winslow. That's never easy. And Winslow was a good team last season in 3A. So the Warriors probably not going to get that win, at least not in week 1. I'm going to take Winslow.
So this is another year for the Warriors in the AIA, and it's also Coach Epperson's second year as head coach. They struggled last year. I'm curious to see what kind of team he has this year, but given a lot of the unknowns, I have to go with Winslow. One of their top defenders in Silas Gonzalez, he had 31 tackles last year and 6 sacks. I think that's going to be a little bit too much for the Warriors.
In our last matchup for the week we have is Sequoia Pathway going on the road to Bisbee. And Sequoia Pathway is a brand new member of the AIA coming up from the Canyon Athletic Association, a league where they were very successful making the championship game last year. But I think it's always hard to predict how that transition is going to go when a team moves up to AIA. I know Donnie Margaram, coach at Sequoia Pathway, is very excited about his team. But I just don't know enough about Sequoia Pathway now to really have confidence in what they're going to do at the AIA level. So in week 1, I am taking Bisbee.
And I'm going to take Sequoia Pathway. Bisbee graduated a lot of their key playmakers from last year, and for Pathway, Alex Montano is returning at quarterback, and he is one of 3 guys who saw a lot of playing time for the Pumas.
And actually, we do have one more game. That is Apache Junction going on the road to Gilbert Mesquite. And we've mentioned throughout this picks portion about a lot of question marks, and maybe no team has as many question marks as the Prospectors, who have a brand new head coach in Bruce Binkley, and they also are going to have a new quarterback after losing Gibson Lamangelo to graduation, who was basically almost their entire offense outside of dynamic receiver Cameron Garcia, who does return and might be the best receiver in Pinal County. They're going up against Mesquite, a very tough 4A team, and I just think that AJ having so many unknowns there and really trying to find themselves and find their identity in week 1, I think Mesquite is going to win this game.
I'm also taking Mesquite. Their quarterback, Ty Thompson, last year he had 45 touchdowns and 14 interceptions and threw over 4,000 yards. Now, the Prospectors' defense was pretty good last year, but under their new head coach, who knows what that will look like this year.
All right, that does it for our picks this week. Remember to visit PinalCentral.com for all of your Pinal County football action. We will see you next week.